This week's guest is an author, speaker, and campaigner. She is the founder of the They Said What project, and after her 22-year battle with debilitating symptoms, she was finally diagnosed with endometriosis. She has now brought together patients and experts to build the ultimate endometriosis guide. I am so excited to pick her brains. I cannot wait to find out more. Please welcome Jen Moore. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. Both your story, which is an incredible story, heartbreaking, but also very inspirational. And then also this gorgeous book of yours, which I am currently reading and absolutely loving. I haven't finished it. I'm not going to pretend that I have. But we're also going to talk about that because it's such a good book. So starting with your story, when did your endo journey begin?
So I think the thing about my story is that it's not different to so many other people's stories, but mine started when I was 11. So it started with my first period, and I just remember being curled up on my parents' floor in their bedroom and I just couldn't move. I was in so much pain, crying, and just really heavy periods right from the start. My mum already had an endometriosis diagnosis at that point.
Okay.
So she had hers diagnosed when I was a toddler. So she kind of was quite concerned very, very early on and took me straight to the doctors. But, you know, no surprises here. They just told her and me that it was completely normal, that I was just an unlucky one with particularly painful ones, that they would ease off as I got older, and to go on the pill. So I was just put on the pill from the age of about 11.
My goodness.
Yeah, no further investigation into what might be causing it. They didn't take my mum seriously when she was kind of saying, I recognise these symptoms, I think they are endometriosis. They kind of made her just feel like she was being a bit neurotic, pushy mum. So that was, from when I was 11, so 25 years ago now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, my heart breaks for you and your mum in that moment because, I mean, I know from my own mum, from conversations that I've had as a parent, you know, that is a really complicated relationship because the parents do feel so helpless, don't they? And just like, I can't protect my girl, I can't help her, I can't fix it, you know, it's really difficult. But for your mum to even have her own diagnosis, and you would assume that that kind of gives you this confidence and almost a bit of authority because you're like, well, I'm literally living it. She's my daughter. I recognise the symptoms. That's just
still
so
to be told
hard.
that you're just being the hysterical woman. And just like she was pushing it on. And I only found that out when I was writing the book. So
really?
my mum and I hadn't really spoken about it until then. And so it was a shock to me that was actually what happened, because I don't really remember. I was 11. I just remember being in a lot of pain and then going on the pill. But to find that out was really quite awful.
No, that must be incredible. And how was the pill for you?
So I was on it for 22 years, without any break, and as in no sort of prolonged period of time break. I had the one where you had it for 3 weeks and then had your withdrawal bleed. So that was kind of my routine for 22 years. And I was still in agony every time I had that withdrawal bleed. And I would be bedbound. I would be so dizzy. I would just look transparent almost. I would just lose all colour. It was awful for 22 years. And I would go back to the doctor and say that I was really, really struggling. But again, it was just, this is normal. This is part of being a woman. You just have to figure out how to deal with it. Half the world has a period. So, you've just got to get on with it. And there was just no further investigation the whole time. And then I think it was just one of the lockdowns in 2021. I just decided that I didn't know what was happening underneath the pill. I read Period Power by Maisie Hill. And it was kind of the most comprehensive menstrual health education that I'd ever had from any source. And I was kind of like, I wonder what my body is like underneath the pill, because I've never known it. And so I stopped the pill in 2021. And what very, very quickly happened was the symptoms that used to be a week out of the month became every single day. So what we realised was the pill was to some extent managing my symptoms, but it had allowed the disease to grow unchecked underneath.
Okay.
And because there was no further sort of investigation by doctors, that happened completely unchecked and nobody knew. So when I came off the pill, we realised the full extent of what had happened underneath, which included, you know, lifelong organ damage, just infertility, so many consequences of being on the pill for that long with no further investigation.
Yeah.
I think the pill is such a controversial topic at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because for some people it really gives them their life back, and people who don't have endometriosis, you know, it's a really useful thing to have, and it has been incredible for women. But I think we have to have informed consent about its limitations, especially when it comes to conditions like endometriosis. It's not a cure. It doesn't stop the growth while you're on it. You know, we need to know this information so that we can make informed choices.
Yeah, because that is the whole concept of informed consent. That is that I got to go to an endo conference not too long ago, and that was one of the key phrases that constantly came up. We need to have informed consent. They need to be part of the discussion. It needs to be kind of, well, just informed, basically. And like you say, if you don't know how something works, the risks, the pros and the cons, it's impossible to give informed consent, right?
I would say, broadly speaking, obviously there are exceptions to this, but informed consent is not currently happening in endometriosis care because the clinical education is not current and up to date. So the information the patients are being provided is not up to date.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't know the limitations of something, the alternatives, so the other options that are out there as well, you can't give informed consent. And if you have a doctor that's telling you hysterectomy, for example, is a cure for endometriosis, so you think, oh, okay, then I will have that massive surgery because it's going to cure me. That's not informed consent because we know it's not a cure.
Yeah.
So I would say, broadly speaking, whilst informed consent is such a bedrock of our medical system when it comes to endometriosis and related conditions, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, and it's a really quite harrowing statement, isn't it? Like it's important just to take that in because that is fundamentally huge and the bedrock of so many other issues that we'll explore that you've talked about. But when you did come off the pill after such a long period of time, and you talked about those symptoms happening every single day for you, obviously enormous amounts of pain and really heavy bleeding. And what were the other symptoms for you that you experienced?
So the pain, I think when we talk about endometriosis, there's kind of this assumption that it's pelvic pain. But for me, it was also back pain, hip pain, leg pain, flank pain, chest pain. You know, it was pain everywhere. And I didn't realise at first that they were all connected, but it turned out they were. It was pain on urination. It was pain with bowel movements. It was painful sex. It was just everything was pain. And then on top of that, there was the heavy bleeding to the point where I was passing out and vomiting. My legs would just collapse from underneath me because the hips had got so weak with pain and other things. So I was using mobility aids, nausea, fatigue, brain fog, just everything. It just felt like I was in this cloud of pain and yuckiness. And it was just, at that point, because that was before I had a diagnosis still, I reached a point where my mental health was so affected by all of that that I couldn't see a life beyond pain.
Yeah.
And definitely not one that I wanted to live. So I think that was a huge effect as well, you know, the mental health side of it. It was a lot. It's a lot to cope with, but symptoms can be so individual. So some people will have absolutely no symptoms. Other people will be completely debilitated by them, and most people will be somewhere in between.
Yeah. And if you had to, because I often talk to ladies that have the symptoms of or have a diagnosis of endo, and like you say, we use the word pain and it is so broad that we almost forget to go into the nitty-gritty sometimes, like you say, about the specific areas. And I can really identify with everything you've said probably over the past 10 years. I've definitely experienced them. And there's lots of different types of pain as well, isn't there? Like for me, you can have the almost like a tea-towel, like the twisting, wringing out feeling. You can have stabbing pain. You can also have, like, I know for me, in my legs, it can be like someone's putting a knife into my knee joint, but it can also be like numbness and almost like I've got cramp and I just can't feel a section of my leg. So the type of pain is really varied as well.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so important to make a note of what type of pain you're feeling and where it is before you go to your doctor, because that can actually help them identify what's going on. So if you have like a ripping or a tearing pain, sometimes that can sometimes be adhesions, which are either endometriosis can cause adhesions or surgery can cause adhesions, but they can be exceptionally painful in their own right. And so if you've got that ripping pain, that could be that. If you've got sort of like a electric shock type pain, that could be nerve pain. So then you need to then start thinking about, is there any nerve involvement here that might need to be looked at? And then you've got burning pain, stabbing pain, barbed wire pain, acid pain, all these different types of pain, but they can be indicative of different things going on. So it's really important to try and identify that and sort of notice, do those pains change throughout your cycle? Are they consistent throughout the whole thing? It's just trying to understand what pain you're in and how that changes. It can be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost like there's no such thing as too much information. Like that teeny tiny bit of detail. I know my diagnosis journey was the teeny tiny bits that I could have easily left out of conversations that literally unlocked so much.
Yeah, and it can be something so tiny, like you say. So the other day, it started to feel like I had a sticker on the sole of my foot. Like when I was walking, it felt like I had a sticker. Yeah. Sounds really weird. But it started to get worse and worse. And this like weird feeling that I had something tugging on the bottom of my foot. And I obviously checked, I hadn't stood on a sticker. But then it's got worse over a few weeks. And then it started to feel like I was having an electric shock on the sole of my foot every time I walked. And it turned out that my sciatic nerve is being compressed because of endo. Wow. And it's going right down to the sole of my foot. And if I hadn't just randomly said, it feels like I have a sticker on the sole of my foot, then we would never have found that out. Yeah. So it is so, so important to just keep a note of everything that's going on, no matter where in your body. It isn't just about what your period is doing.
No.
It's so much more than that. It's about what's happening in your whole body.
Yeah.
And it can be surprising what comes out from those patterns and spotting those things.
Yeah, and really shocking symptoms like you say, make no sense to you in the moment. That I've been so surprised by year on year what new things have sometimes crept up or have happened that I've gone, okay, like what the hell's going on now? Why is this a new thing? Like I haven't had this before.
And that's a really good point, because sometimes when we talk about tracking symptoms, which is so important for a condition like endometriosis, but you've also got to acknowledge that actually that can lead to quite a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
That constant hyper awareness of your body and your pain and the state you're in and new symptoms. It can kind of feel like, oh my God, is it back? Is something happening here? What's going on? Whereas even post surgery, you can have the best surgery by the best surgeon in the world, and you could still have pain afterwards, because that disease has been growing in you for, in my case, 22 years before I had the surgery. So that's going to have caused a lot of damage that's going to take a long time to settle, to unpick, to wind down those muscles that have been so tense for so long. There's so many different things that can be causing pain. And so when we have these new symptoms or they're worse, and it can bring a lot of anxiety, and it's difficult to balance tracking and taking note of what's going on and listening to your body, and also not being so hyper aware of it that it's causing you anxiety and stress in itself. It's a really difficult balance. I don't think is acknowledged, and not enough anyway.
No, and I think it's a constant, for me at least, it's definitely a constant work in progress balance.
Yes.
Like sometimes we go one way too far, the other way too far. Sometimes we have a nice balance.
Yeah. True.
It's just something that is you're always evolving, the disease is evolving, and then you have to evolve together as well. It's such a complicated relationship.
It is. And our knowledge of the disease as well is also evolving. So it's kind of something that maybe was not really considered important before suddenly becomes important. It is very, very complicated, and it's almost a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
To kind of understand what's going on, educate yourself, because you have to advocate so hard for yourself, and then you've got it's a lot. Yes. It's too much, to be honest.
It is too
Nobody
much.
should be expected to do all of this, but for some reason, for endometriosis and conditions like adenomyosis as well, we're just expected to do it. But it is like a full-time job.
Absolutely, and not one that you want either.
No, we don't get paid.
No, or any benefits. It's just negatives,
no time
really.
off. No, yeah, no bank
nothing.
holidays.
So let's move to the section, or the stage where you came off the pill, and then a big change, which kind of led you to the surgery and actually getting the diagnosis. What was that changing? Because from going to so many doctors and GPs, what changed?
I think it was my husband sort of looked at me after, I think it was probably about 2 or 3 months at this point after I'd come off the pill. And he was like, he was like, you'd been coping until now, but something has to change because you cannot live like this.
Yeah.
And so we wrote down everything that was going on in my body from top to toe, whatever it was. I didn't think they were connected because at the time I still thought endo was a period thing.
Yeah.
I was convinced I had endometriosis. I even started calling it Edna.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to call it endometriosis because I hadn't been diagnosed.
Yeah.
So I just nicknamed her Edna.
I like that.
Although it turns out everybody that I love in my life has a really lovely aunt Edna. So I feel really bad. But yeah, so I nicknamed it Edna. And I wrote down everything. And I rang the doctor. And it was at the time where you still couldn't get a face-to-face appointment. So it was on the phone. And I just read this whole thing. It was multiple sides of A4. And I read it all out. And she was like, okay, that's a lot. Something isn't quite right. I'll send you for a scan.
Okay.
So I went for an ultrasound scan, and it was honestly one of the most horrific medical appointments I've ever been to. And I've been to a fair few. And she couldn't find certain parts of my anatomy, like the ovaries, internal, yeah. And she was just struggling to find bits, and then she was getting quite aggressive with it. I don't know whether she was just stressed out about it. But anyway, it was a disaster. And they eventually said that there was no endometriosis indicated on the ultrasound, so no further action was needed, and that was that sort of terminated the care pathway. And I am so grateful, and I appreciate that not everybody is in this position, but my parents stepped in and said, look, we agree with Chris, my husband. You were managing before, but this is now ruining your life. And they said, whatever it takes, whatever it costs, we will cover it. Just find out what's going on. So I went for an MRI privately, and that's when the surgeon diagnosed me with endometriosis and adenomyosis. And he was a gynecological oncologist, so he deals with gynae cancers. So he was very, very skilled with complex gynae surgery. So I booked in with him, and he told, he completely reassured me. He was like, we can sort this. No wonder you were in so much pain, but we're going to sort you out. It's going to be fine. And don't worry about the adenomyosis because that doesn't cause a lot of pain anyway. It's just like a squashed cake. That was how he described it. Okay.
And so this oncologist was not endometriosis specialised?
No, I didn't know that there was such a thing as an endometriosis specialist at that time.
Understandably.
Yeah. So instead of this gentleman saying, great news, it's not cancer, bad news, it's these conditions, that's not my wheelhouse, let me refer you over. He was just like, nope, we can sort you, it's going to be fine. So I had surgery with him a couple of months later. And again, my parents paid. And he diagnosed me with stage 2 endometriosis and mild adenomyosis.
Okay.
And he said that he removed the endometriosis. Turns out he burned it, not removed it.
Oh, no.
And he said I was going to be absolutely fine. And he put a Mirena coil in because he was very insistent that I should have that for the adenomyosis. I would say about 6 to 8 weeks after that surgery, I was still in agony, not surgical healing. I've had surgeries before, so I knew what to expect there, but it was the same pain I was in before. And I had my post-op with him, and I raised that, and he said that he was the surgeon, that he'd done his job, and maybe now this is psychosomatic and that I should be aggressive with painkillers and think about therapy.
Oh, my God.
And he was the first person to believe me, effectively. He diagnosed me. I thought he was this amazing surgeon. And I mean, I'm sure he is in his field. But he was kind of like my knight in shining armor in terms of medical care. I was like, yes, he's going to help me. And then he just dismissed me so bluntly. And I left and I was crushed. And my husband, I love him. He's great. And I always feel bad for throwing him under the bus. But he was like, he's right. you are an incredibly intelligent woman, but you're not a doctor. And I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
And he was like, maybe he's right. But if you want a second opinion, that's what we'll do. We will get you a second opinion.
Yeah.
So we did. At that point, I had found out the importance of an endometriosis specialist.
Okay.
And how complex the disease can be. And so I researched and I found a couple of surgeons and I asked them, I effectively interviewed them. I asked them so many questions. And I found the one I wanted to go with. And he did another MRI and found that the endometriosis was stage 4, that there was still extensive deep disease, including disease that was putting both of my kidneys at risk of double kidney failure. And that the adenomyosis was pretty much at the most advanced stage it can be. So we agreed that the best step would be to have another surgery with multiple surgeons because it was going to be very complex, and to have a hysterectomy for the adenomyosis as well. And so that happened pretty much a year to the day of the first surgery.
Oh, Jen, there just aren't any words, are there?
None that are polite.
Well, certainly don't have to worry about being polite here, that's for sure. It's just so wrong. It's just so wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm just so incredibly sorry that you had to spend a day living that life, let alone 22 years plus all the rest with the surgeries.
It's the thing, isn't it? Do you know, the only people that have ever said I'm sorry for that are patients. And we always do it. We always apologise to each other. I'm so sorry you went through that. I'm so sorry you're going through that. Never once has a doctor said that to me.
No.
At least sincerely.
Yeah, I think sincere is the key word there. I've had apologies, but I think they've been the most robotic, cold, empty words.
Yeah, it's just been kind of a token, oh, that's what I meant to say. And I think outside of, I obviously work with a lot of clinicians now, and outside of the clinic, ones that I've worked with, they've expressed sort of that sorriness. But in terms of actually in an appointment, never. It's always patients that are apologising to each other for what they've been through and the lives that they've been forced to live.
Yeah. And you touched on the emotional and the mental impact of endometriosis. We, like you say, we talk about symptoms a lot, but we don't talk enough about the mental and emotional impact on us, which is absolutely phenomenal. And how has that been for you since, both surgeries actually?
It's been so mixed and complicated. And I think we expect ourselves and other humans to only have one emotion at a time. You're happy, or you are sad, or you are scared, or you are excited. Whereas actually you can be all of those things at once. And so when I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do for about 3 hours. I just sat on the sofa and my husband was cooking us dinner and he was like, "You okay?" I was like, I don't know if I'm all right, actually. Because I was hopeful because somebody had told me that they were going to help me. I was validated because they were like, "No wonder you were in this pain. That's ridiculous." I was happy that somebody finally saw that. I was relieved that somebody believed me after all this time. I was petrified because I'd just been diagnosed with a chronic condition and told I need major surgery. I was angry because it had taken a quarter of a century to get there. I had all of these things and they were all swirling around, and that was just at diagnosis. So then when you go through all of that things, it gets even more complicated as you learn more about the disease, and you're like, well, now I feel guilt because I am no longer able to do as much, and I feel like my husband's life has been put on hold, and my infertility obviously affects my husband's future. And so I feel guilt about that, and I feel guilt that my parents had to pay for my surgery and the first one didn't work, so they had to pay again. So I feel guilt for that. And then I feel anger, not necessarily at particular doctors, but just a system that has allowed this to happen. And then I feel motivation because I look at my nieces and I just refuse to let them go through anything like this. And so the mental health impact of having a condition like this is so multi-layered and complex and individual, and it won't be the same day to day.
No.
And even just living in that pain forget everything else, forget the struggle that it took to get there. Just living with those symptoms is a lot.
Yeah.
So much. And then you have grief that comes into it because you're grieving the person you used to be or the person that you thought you might become that suddenly isn't an option anymore. It is so complicated. And it's okay that it's complicated. And if you don't know necessarily when somebody asks you how you're doing.
Yeah.
Because half the time I don't. I'm winging it. I think we all are.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
I think even without a condition, I think we're winging it these days, just as general human adults trying to figure this out. But when you throw in a condition like this into the mix, it's okay if it's complicated and overwhelming sometimes. And I think the important thing is to remember there is help and support out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to hear because with endometriosis, you quite often have your mental health weaponized against you. You're told it's just stress or it's anxiety or it's in your head or it's psychosomatic now, so maybe you need some therapy. So it's hard to hear sometimes that actually mental health support can help.
Yeah.
But it's not obviously going to change the facts of the disease. It's going to perhaps help you manage your life with the disease.
Yes.
And that's the distinction we need to make with it.
Yeah.
But it's so complex. To be honest, it could have been a book in itself, just the mental health side of living with this condition.
Yeah.
It's hard to cover everything, but I think it's just important to remember that support is there. You don't have to do it alone. And it's okay if it's complicated and that you can hold more than one emotion at once.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think that's what if you've not felt like maybe you've done that before, had experience doing that before, this condition is definitely going to teach you that you can feel what feels like 100 different things all within one moment. And of course, that in itself just feels like your brain is about to explode because it's so much, and it like you say, the word complicated is definitely the right word.
Yeah.
And I think as well, when you talk about support, it makes me think about when I was really young in my journey. So I was like 18, 19 at uni. And I was under an endometriosis clinic at that point. I'd just got referred there. And the nurse had said to me, oh, we really think it's important that you have support, you have a network, and there's a hospital group that we really think you should go to. And of course, I was so overwhelmed with everything and had no idea what I was doing that I was like, yeah, of course I'll go, absolutely. And I remember walking in, and I walked into the room, and I was at least 20, 30 years younger than everybody else. This was 10 years ago as well. So I think it was a slightly different time as well. And one of the ladies, she was lovely, but she just turned to me and said, like, oh, sorry, dear, like, I think the nurses group or whatever is down the hall. So there was an assumption that because I was so young, you know, I didn't belong there. And I said, no, if this is the endometriosis group, I'm here for that. And you know, it's just human nature, isn't it? The reaction or the shock and all their faces. And I just kind of thought like, oh, and I realised in that group, it just wasn't the space for me. Like for some people that was so right and that was the people they wanted to be surrounded by.
Yeah.
But for me, I realised that it wasn't my people. It wasn't my group.
I think that's really important to acknowledge, isn't it? That actually there isn't one way to cope with this or to find your support and your people. There isn't one size fits all because we're all different in different life stages. Like you say, we have very, very different lives. We're from different communities. We're from different backgrounds. And so for me, it was online. It wasn't an in-person group. I found my people, as you said, like online.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it's my husband and my friends and my mum. You know, that's my support network and my support group. There isn't a one size for everybody. Some people might be their partner. Some people it might be their mum, a friend, a pet. Some people it's an online support group or just finding friends online. Sometimes it's an in-person one at a hospital or a charity one. There are so many ways, and it's just knowing that it's okay. You don't have to force it. You know, the support should feel, well, supportive, but also effortless. And in a way, it should feel like you fit and that these people get it. These people actually understand what I'm going through. Because it's such an isolating disease for a condition that affects as many people as it does. It's very, very clever at making you feel like you're the only person going through it and that you're the only one who knows
completely
just how horrible it is. Really quite clever in that way. It does isolate you, but it's just knowing that there are ways to reach out. You know, I've seen so many different things. I've seen like endo book clubs, and it's not about endo books, but it's just a book club for people who have endo. So they, you know, gaming clubs, crafting clubs, running clubs. Like there's been so like brunches, all sorts of stuff, as well as then, you know, the more traditional support group sitting in a circle and sharing. And it's for some people that is what they need, but for other people it's actually connection and not talking about the disease all the time, but just being with people who get it. Who get it if you need to like undo your trousers and sit with a hot water bottle in a weird position, or you know, people who get it if you need to bail last minute because you're flaring. It's sometimes it isn't about finding a way to talk about the disease. It's just finding people who get it and allow you to exist in a way that supports you. So I think that's really important.
Definitely. And I think what I realised as well is that I've got some like amazing people in my life and friends, and had friendship groups at different stages of my life with uni and then working in different areas and things like that. And they were all lovely people, but not everyone gets it. I think that's the other thing that you have to recognise, like very similar to you. As I've got older, I've realised that actually my real circle of people that get it, quotation marks, is very, very small.
Tiny,
And that's actually okay, because I think realistically it is going to be quite small, because it's a very special, unique skill and ability that the people in my life have to get it as much as they possibly can without having the disease in their body and going through it themselves.
And we can't expect everybody to put in that self-education to do that, because they have their own lives as well. And so it's sometimes acknowledging that, you know, they still might be really well-meaning, but they're saying something that actually makes you feel a bit dismissed or invalidated. But it doesn't always come from a negative place. It just comes from a place of they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's sometimes hard to acknowledge when you feel abandoned or whatever it might be. But it isn't always from an intentional place. But finding those people who do get it, even if it's just one person, it makes such a difference to living a life with something like endometriosis.
Living in agonising pain is one of the hardest parts of living with endometriosis. Every single morning, I would wake up with stabbing, twisting, throbbing pain all over my entire body. And the only way I could survive was by taking painkillers all day, every day. If you told me over 10 years ago that natural pain relief would work better than drugs, I'd have thought you were crazy. But then I found BU's pain relief patches. I've had the pleasure of working with the sibling co-founder, Hemang and crew, and I trust them. I trust them to do right by me. I trust them to do right by you. I trust them to do right by all of us. So, if your endometriosis pain is out of control or your periods are ruining your social life, then use discount Alexandra 10 for 10% off BU's products. Yes, you did hear me correctly. That is 10% across all their products. Go and have a look. What's the harm? You can also head to the show's description notes for all the information and all the clickable links. You touched on relationships a little bit ago, and I wanted to ask you about that, because obviously the surgery that you had to have because no one paid attention or investigated when they should have, it almost feels, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like that surgery was maybe felt a little bit forced on, or kind of like the only option at that point, the hysterectomy that you had. How has that affected obviously yourself and then you and your relationships?
So the hysterectomy at that point was very much my last option. Okay. It was kind of just get this thing out of me. And I don't regret my hysterectomy for a single day. I would do it again tomorrow just to remove the adenomyosis and fibroids, as it turned out. I didn't know I had them until after the biopsy. So I would do that again tomorrow in a heartbeat. But at the time, it was very much just get this thing out of me. I cannot continue my life with this. So at that point, I didn't really think much beyond that. I was very adamant in every appointment. This is what I want. I don't want children. I just want this thing out. And I think when it comes to fertility, we think of it in a very black and white way. We think of the people who desperately want children and a family and will do anything to have that. We think of the people who are completely child-free by choice. They know that's just not part of their future and they're very, very happy. But actually, there's this huge spectrum in between, and we exist in those shades of grey, the vast majority of us. And so for me and my husband, he was more on the child-free by choice.
Okay.
I was very much sliding up and down,
Yeah.
depending on the day. But at the time, it was just impossible to even imagine having a child in that life that I was in.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, there's just get out. I don't want it in me. I just cannot exist anymore with this organ. And so it was a real shock to me. I didn't expect after the hysterectomy to suddenly be hit with this sense of loss. That suddenly my ability to change my mind or to choose one day in the future had gone. I always assumed, I'm a very privileged, I'm white, I'm Western, I'm well educated. I always assumed I'd have a choice over my fertility and choice to have a child.
Yes.
And suddenly that choice was gone. And I didn't realize how much I valued that choice until it had gone.
Yeah.
And so I was hit with this huge sense of loss and confusion, and I didn't really understand what was happening. And Chris, bless him, was kind of like, I don't get it. I thought you really wanted it. Are you okay? And I was like, no, I don't regret it, and I am okay, but I just don't know what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't helped by my sister-in-law, who I adore. She fell pregnant basically the day of my hysterectomy.
Oh,
so she
no.
conceived basically the day I had my hysterectomy.
Oh, Jen.
And we're really close, like geographically and relationship-wise. So there was me kind of coming to terms with infertility and her having her pregnancy at the exact same time.
Oh,
And it was
that's cruel.
into the fire for sure.
Yeah.
It was hard, really hard. But what it did show me was that, okay, that choice is now off, but there's still a life
Yes.
of options and opportunity and just fun and love and all that stuff that we want in our lives is still open.
Yeah.
So, that path closed, but all of the other ones are still open.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of, the way I got through it was realizing what brings me joy in my life and what I want to do that I haven't been able to do, and doing more of it.
Yes.
And that was such a turning point for me. And it still sucks.
Of
like
course.
at Christmas, Halloween, when you just see cute people doing cute things with cute babies.
Yes.
That still sucks.
Of course.
It really does. And I'll just catch myself really randomly being like, oh, that will never be us.
Yeah.
I think the last one was Father's Day. Like just walking into a supermarket and just seeing Father's Day stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, no, I'm fine. I didn't want kids. Like he'll be the first to say it. He's never put that guilt on me. But I still burst into tears in the supermarket because it remains a fact that he would have been an awesome dad.
Yeah.
Like he's an amazing uncle. He would have been an incredible dad.
Yeah.
And I feel like I took that away from him.
Yeah.
So it is really complicated. And I think even if you are so adamant that you want a hysterectomy, and even if you don't regret it for a minute, you can still have all of this other stuff going on under the surface. And again, that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to pretend that it's all perfect and that you're happy.
Yeah. And it's the word that comes to mind is grief again. Like you say, grief of the multiple different potential futures that you could have had. Grief of the option, which is such a key thing. I haven't experienced what you've experienced. Obviously, both our endo journeys are completely unique to us, like they are to everyone. But I can relate to that feeling of, even when you have the most supportive partner, whether it's Chris saying, I'm just not interested in that, or my partner, that is something that I think we'd like as an option on the table. And we've talked about if, buts and whatever's in the future. But even just that feeling of, he would never put any pressure on, my family would never put any pressure on, the external people, but that guilt just sits there because you just feel so responsible and that weighs so heavy. And in different ways, I know that I've had moments, I think when other family members start having children and things like that, that just shines such a spotlight on all those fears and worries that you keep to yourself late at night. And I know that exact feeling where it's almost like you just catch your breath, or you realise that you've been holding your breath for about a minute, and then you're like, oh, okay.
I forgot to breathe.
Yeah, breathe. Like, breathe out, girl, breathe.
Definitely that. Yeah.
But it's almost like the world, for me, the world stands still, and it's suddenly like everything goes slow motion, and it's that hyper focus, isn't it? That hyper fixation.
It is, and it's really hard. And then you get the, well-meaning family members that start saying, oh, are you going to have children? And we're kind of like, no, we're not. But I think, I don't know, part of it was before I had the hysterectomy, and we were kind of like, well, having a child is just impossible in this situation anyway. We were very much, to anybody that asked, oh no, we're fine, we don't want children, we're happy being aunts and uncles. And so it was a shock to me then to realise after the hysterectomy that I was like, oh, okay, why am I feeling like that? I shouldn't feel like that. And some of my friends were like, why are you feeling like that? I thought you didn't want kids. And I was like, no, I just didn't want kids in that life.
Yeah.
I know it never occurred to me to have a pain-free life and then maybe be able to have that choice.
Yeah.
So it was an odd trade-off. And I think some people are a little bit frightened to talk about that kind of feeling, because it's almost then saying that they regret it, but they don't necessarily. It's a really complicated feeling. And I think it's just important to allow yourself to move through those feelings and to have a safe space to express them, whether that's your partner, whether it's online, whether it's with a friend. Just avoid the trolls, because they love it.
Yeah, they can't out themselves, can they? There's always got to be some little group or minority in the corners of the internet.
Yeah, I had a hysterectomy party after my hysterectomy, because I was just like so happy to get this organ gone, and we had a hysterectomy pinata, like a uterus pinata.
Yeah,
it was so much fun. It was only like my close friends and family, but it was really fun. And I posted about it on my Instagram, and I had death threats, rape threats. I was told my husband would leave me. I was told that I no longer have purpose as a woman on this planet, so I should just die. That I'm now using up Earth's precious limited resources, so I don't deserve to exist.
Oh my God, Jen.
People have opinions about women who have hysterectomies.
That is horrific. Can I ask, do you know whether the trolls were both genders?
They were both, yeah.
That just makes my blood boil. It's unacceptable across the board, but
the ones the women were the ones that were saying that my husband would leave me now. So they were the ones kind of saying, you've denied him a chance to be a father, so don't be surprised if he cheats and he goes off with somebody else.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were the ones that were kind of like, no, that's your role in a relationship. They were quite often women.
Well, I feel incredibly sorry for them and their small-minded lives, because the only people that are missing out and are going to be severely disadvantaged by their own thinking is themselves. Totally wrong what they did to you. Completely unacceptable. God, it just blows your mind what people can say and do, doesn't it?
People are getting really like bold with it as well. It used to be you'd get an anonymous page where it didn't even have a profile picture. It was a locked account. It wasn't a real name. Now people are saying it with open accounts, with their family in their pictures, like their kids, their wives, their husbands. Yeah, they're getting really, like, their jobs there. People are getting really bold with this kind of thing and just saying it with their full chest.
Oh my God. Well, I hope it's their fall down then, if you're stupid enough to...
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Karma somewhere, please. Karma would be great if that can come around.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking about the work, obviously you have a very public profile in terms of the advocacy work that you do and the campaigning, which is just phenomenal, and the community that you've built is beautiful. I love looking at your page and all the stuff you do, and you've done this beautiful book. I'm going to hold it up so people can see, because it is absolutely gorgeous. And you can see my little kind of marker where I've got to when I'm reading it. I want to talk about it because even though it's been a 10-year journey so far, and like you, I love learning and just trying to continue development. I am just learning so much already from this book, and it's very early days for me reading it.
Thank you.
So tell me about it. What does it include? What do you hope it achieves?
So for me, I realised quite quickly how much we have to educate ourselves when it comes to this disease, so that we can have informed consent, like we said earlier. And so I very quickly started researching, and I read books, and I looked online, and I looked on charity websites and NHS websites. All of the information conflicted. And it was so confusing on top of an already confusing time, trying to figure out what was right, what was wrong, what was just outdated. And so I thought there has to be something consolidated that people can just have, no matter where they are in their journey, whether they just think they have endometriosis, whether they have been diagnosed for 10, 22 years, whatever it may be, whether they're a loved one, whether they're a doctor or a different healthcare practitioner, and supporting people, no matter who you are. I just wanted there to be a resource available that is up to date, inclusive and comprehensive. And those were my three kind of pillars that I wanted to hit, because we don't talk enough about experiences beyond what we picture a woman with a painful period to be.
Yes.
Which is normally white, pretty slim, quite, educated, curled up with a hot water bottle, access to healthcare. So it was important for me to include as wide a lens as possible, whilst also really focusing on what this disease is, because I think we're also so used to hearing about endometriosis we don't know.
Yes.
Or there isn't enough research, or we just don't know that. It's just not known. It's too complicated. And whilst all of those statements are true, they all have a limit, because actually we know quite a lot. Yeah. And we know an awful lot more than most doctors realise we know. And so I just wanted something where the answer wasn't always we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's current as of now. We are obviously learning a lot more every single day. There will be time where this also becomes outdated, and so it will need another revision. But at the moment, I truly believe it is the most up-to-date, inclusive and comprehensive look at endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, and how to live with them that exists. It includes obviously what those conditions are and what they are not. It includes treatment options, symptom management options, not just surgical and medical, but also lifestyle and sort of ones to support yourself. It includes mental health. It includes relationships, sex, work, education. It includes what support is out there in terms of work support or financial support. It includes a look at other communities that face barriers to care that I've never even considered. But if we, lift the benchmark for all of us, so lift the bar for the ones that are the most effective, the bar raises for us all. A rising tide lifts all boats. So it includes looks at different communities and different, genders, sex, ethnicity, community, culture, weight even, simple things like fat phobia in medicine. It includes what research is currently happening and AI and how that can interact. It honestly includes so much. Yeah. It's actually bigger than it was meant to be, because I sent my editor, it was meant to be sort of 80,000 words. And then I think the document I sent her was about 120,000 words. And we managed to cut it down to just under 100. But it does include so much, because I kept waking up and having a panic in the middle of the night that I'd forgotten to include something. Okay. And so I would rush to my laptop, and Chris is there what's happening, thinking it was a panic. I was like, I forgot to include about thoracic endometriosis or something, something really random, which I hadn't forgotten. That was a really major one, but something much, much smaller and nicher than that. But and I'd rush and try and include it because there's just so much of this topic that we don't talk about. We don't talk about extrapelvic disease very often.
No, we don't.
We don't talk about disease in adolescence enough and what their options are, because slapping an 11-year-old on a pill and leaving them for 22 years with no further investigation or support, I think is borderline. I don't want to use the word negligent because that obviously has legal connotations, but unethical in my view. In my opinion. So it includes so much, and more than that, it includes experiences from around the world of patients who have lives very, very different to mine, experiences different to mine, and experts from around the world as well. And it includes expert opinions and experience and knowledge from people who we don't actually often get to hear from because they're so busy in labs, in operating theatres, with patients. And so it was really, really important to me to make sure that the experts I was talking to are those at the forefront of endometriosis knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful to all of them who did give up their time and their knowledge for that, and the patients as well to give up their time and their stories and their trauma, essentially.
Yeah.
The book wouldn't be the same without them. Yeah.
And what really comes across when I read it is how easy it is to read.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, it's so easy. My kind of the ways I de-stress in my bedtime routine is reading some rom-com fiction book that just kind of makes me escape from the world, and it's like a real wind down. It's lovely. So I love reading those kind of books. But on the other side, work-wise, there's also a lot of very technical books or articles or kind of research journals that you read to be educated, to inform yourself. And what I love is that this feels like a beautiful kind of merriment of the two worlds coming together.
Thank you.
Because
that means a lot.
It's enjoyable to read, and obviously there's a lot of information. There's so much to learn, which is amazing. But the way it's done is just so enjoyable, which is really nice.
That really means a lot. Thank you. Because I firmly believe a patient should not have to go on PubMed or wherever it is and read research articles to understand their disease.
Yeah.
That is not common for pretty much any other specialty, unless you're really, really into that and that's how your brain works. You shouldn't be saying, to a patient, you need to go and download the NICE guidelines and the ESHRE guidelines, and you need to go and look at this research paper and this research paper. But don't forget, this is how you need to read research papers, because they aren't all equal.
Yeah.
A patient shouldn't have to be doing that. And when I was first trying to get that diagnosis, there was just nothing that was accessible. I don't mind doing that deep reading because that's how my brain works. But I don't feel like you should have to.
Yeah.
And so it was really important to me that the information was accessible and warm and empathetic as well, because I think a lot of the time we're slapped with a patient leaflet from the NHS, and it's so cold and it's so impersonal, and it doesn't actually relate to your life a lot of the time.
I don't actually find them that informative, if I'm honest.
No,
I haven't read a single leaflet and gone, you know what, that's given me the information that I need, decision made. Like, I've never particularly found them that helpful.
No, they're not. And I think one of the surgeons in the book actually says the NHS loves a leaflet and he doesn't really understand why, because they're so expensive to produce and to print and to hand out. They become outdated so fast, but then they're not updated in terms of the content.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't understand why the NHS is so wedded to these leaflets, because most of them just go in the bin or in our bag.
Yeah.
There has to be something better, and that was my aim, was to create that something better.
And I think it's just, I really wanted to say that because I think it's just so important that I think a lot of women, either with the symptoms, diagnosis journey, or maybe with a diagnosis, will maybe want to read and educate themselves about something, but they might look again at that literature that's out there and it just feels scary and overwhelming and not that accessible. And for someone who is genuinely reading the book right now, I think it's just important to say that actually this one is readable. Like, it's readable, it's easy, it's enjoyable, you don't need to be afraid of it.
Thank you. That honestly means so much. Every time someone tags me in like a particular page that they're finding relatable, or it just that makes me so happy.
Good. Wow.
That makes me happier than like sales figures.
Yeah.
Which my publishers will probably say, like, Jen, no, we need to sell the books. But actually, with the tags that I'm getting in Instagram and the messages and the emails and just the little bits, seeing people that have highlighted certain bits, or they've screenshot bits from the ebook or whatever it may be. That's the win for me.
Yeah.
Seeing that, and that somebody feels seen and empowered. And I've had people message and say that they're taking it to their doctor's appointment, or the knowledge in it, they've seen misinformation, for example, on a radio show the other day, and they felt empowered to actually write in and say, you're giving out misinformation about this disease, you need to do this, or look at this, just that kind of strength. Just that means so much to me. I can't even say.
Well, you're empowering people, aren't you? Which is just the most important thing to do.
Thank you. Honestly, it means so much. I can't even say how much it means.
We've talked a lot about emotions, but I can see that the emotion's real, right? Because it's so important, and it's also so close to home.
Yeah.
What I would love to ask you as we come to the end of the conversation, I mean, it's a shame because I could literally sit here and talk to you all day. I was like, I'm aware that I can't just speak to you for 5 hours, but oh my God, it'd be so easy to. But 2 questions really. Firstly, the future of endometriosis. I'd love your opinions and your hopes, because this book definitely, I can see it's trying to pave the way for a better future and to kind of set a new precedent for information and education. So what's your hope?
So my hope is twofold. The first one is clinical education, because unless that changes, we're still going to be stuck in this loop of outdated information being given to doctors who then pass it on to patients. So we need to tackle clinical education, and we've started that. But it just, I need to see that have some oomph behind it and some resource behind it, because if a doctor is taught endometriosis is a bad period, it's very, very rare for it to be anything else.
Yeah.
You know, largely it's just a bad period. So put them on the pill, give them a hysterectomy if they need it. That is what they will continue to give patients, not through malice or even just, you know, it's purely a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Which seems a pretty easy fix, actually. Just give them the right information. So that is my first hope. And that's a really nice, tangible hope, I think. My second hope would be to have a diagnostic that is less invasive than surgery.
Yeah.
And we are getting there. There is some amazing, amazing research happening. There's some really fascinating stuff about AI and ultrasound happening. But of course, you have to make sure that what's feeding the AI is up to date and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So that will come. I do think that will come. But without the clinical education underpinning it, we're still going to have people falling through gaps. We're still going to have people being told the scan is clear. We're still, you know, all of these things.
Yeah.
So it has to be underpinned by clinical education. And again, that is quite tangible. It's doable. The more broad hope for not just endometriosis, but women's health and health generally is to believe women.
Yes.
To just have that empathy and to put humans back into medicine. We aren't just a collection of organs and systems. We are people. We have goals and dreams and hopes. And when we speak about our pain, we're not believed. We're just not at the moment. Very rarely do we go the first time when we're believed.
Yeah.
And I know that happens in men's health as well. But it is nowhere near the level and consistency that it happens in women's healthcare. I asked my husband, I said to him, have you ever worried about going to the doctor about whether they'll believe you? And he looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I don't have a second head. He looked at me like I'd grown 3 heads. And he was like, what do you mean? Like, no, I go to the doctor, I tell them what's wrong, they tell me how to fix it or what they're going to do, and I leave.
Yeah.
I have never had an appointment like that.
No.
Ever.
Every single appointment that I've been to, I've had a game plan.
Yeah. We go in like a negotiation.
Oh my God, I go in like I'm like some corporate CEO that's about to take down some badass company. And
we have prepped, we know our data, we know what's there, we know the NICE guidelines, we know what's happening in our body, we've got tracked data, we've got this, we've got that.
Yeah.
We go in like a negotiation. And so my wish is that no woman goes to a doctor's appointment more afraid of whether she'll be believed than what her symptoms mean.
Yes.
That's my wish and my hope. Because right now that is where we are at.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. The final question I have for you that I ask everyone.
Okay.
And it is definitely, it can be an emotionally charged one, but it tends to give some really beautiful answers that are always very insightful. So if you could go back, whether it's to 11, teenage years, early 20s, whatever age, and speak to Jen at that age, what would you say to her if you could speak to her?
Do you know, somebody asked me this once after a talk I did, and I had never considered it before. Okay. Never. I had never. They worded it differently. They said, have you ever considered what your life would be like if you were believed at 11?
Okay.
I never even considered that was a possibility for me. So I now would tell little Jen to keep going because it won't be easy. But I would also tell her to lean into the people that want to support her.
Okay.
That she doesn't have to do it alone. That she isn't weak, or she definitely doesn't have a low pain threshold.
Mm-hmm.
And that she has a voice. Because for so long she was told, no, just deal with it. By doctors. You know, just deal with it. You've just got to accept it. You just have to be that good girl. And so I would remind her that she has a voice and she is allowed to use it. And yeah, to lean into the people around her, because it is going to be a long road, but she doesn't have to do it alone.
Amazing. Thank you, Jen. You've been just the most phenomenal guest. And I am truly in awe of you and what you're doing. I think you're incredibly inspirational. I feel inspired just from having this conversation with you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
I loved our girl chat this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to hit the follow button wherever you're listening. To find out more about us or today's guest, then head to the show notes. Until next time, I'm Alexandra, and remember, it's not just a period.